Hare Krishna. A very happy Gaur Purnima to all the Matasis. So today we are starting teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So Krishna appeared in Kali Yuga to freely give out Krishna Prem, because when Krishna gives someone Krishna Prem, then he is bind. That's why Krishna doesn't give Krishna Prem very easily, but he came as Lord Chaitanya and gave his mercy freely. So, to know more about Lord Chaitanya, we are starting this book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Introduction. Originally delivered as 5 morning lectures on Chaitanya Charitamrita, the authoritative biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami before the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, New York City, April 10 to 14, 1967. The word Chaitanya means living force. Charit means character and Amrit means immortal. As living entities, we can move, but a table cannot because it doesn't possess living force. Movement and activity may be considered signs of the living force. Indeed, it may be said that there can be no activity without the living force. Although the living force is present in material condition, this condition is not Amrit, immortal. The word Chaitanya Charita Amrit then may be translated as the character of the living force in immortality. Vanshika Matiri.
But how is this living force displayed? Immortality. It is not displayed by man or any other creature in this material universe. For none of us are immortal in these bodies. We possess the living forces. We perform activities, and we are immortal by our nature and constitution. But the material condition into which we have been put does not allow our immortality to be displayed. It is stated in the Katha Upanishad that internality and the living force are characteristic of both other ourself and God. Although this is true in that both God and ourselves are immortal living beings, there is a difference as living entities. We perform many activities, but we have a tendency to fall down into material nature. God has no such tendency. Being all powerful, he never comes under the control of material nature. Indeed, material nature is but one display of his inconceivable energy. An analogy will help us understand the distinction between ourselves and God. From the ground, we may see cloud in the sky, but if we fly above the clouds, we can see the sun shining from the sky. The sky is crepus and cities seem very teeny. Similarly, from God's position, this entire material creation is insignificant. Thus, living entity is also insignificant, and his tendency is to come down from the heights, where everything can be seen in perspective. God, however, does not have this tendency. The Supreme Lord is not subject to falling down into illusion anymore. Then the sun is subject to falling beneath the cloud. Impersonality philosophers maintain that because we fall under the control of Maya. When we come into the this material world, God must also fall under Maya's control. This is the fallacy of other philosophy.
Lord Chaitanya should therefore not be considered one of us. He is Krishna himself, the supreme living entity, and as such he never comes under the cloud of Maya. Krishna, his expansions, and his higher devotees never fall into the clutches of illusion. Lord Chaitanya came down to earth simply to preach Krishna Bhakti, love of Krishna. In other words, he is Krishna himself, teaching the living entities the proper way to approach Krishna. He is like a teacher who, seeing the student doing poorly, take up the pencil and writes, saying, "Do it like this, A, B, C." From this, one should not foolishly think that the teacher is learning the ABCs. Similarly, although Lord Chaitanya appears in the guise of a devotee, we should not foolishly think he is an ordinary human being. We should always remember that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, teaching us how to become Krishna conscious, and we must study him in that light. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Give up all your nonsense and surrender to me. I will protect you." We say, "Oh, surrender," but I have so many responsibilities. And Maya, illusion says to us, don't do it, and you will be out of my clutches. Just stay in my clutches and I'll kick you.
It is the fact that we are constantly being kicked by Maya, just as the male as is kicked in the face by the sea as when he comes for sex. Similarly, cats and dogs are always fighting and winning when they have sex. Even an elephant in the jungle is caught by the use of a trained sea elephant who leads him into a pit. We should learn by observing these tricks of nature. Maya has many ways to entrap us, and her strongest shade is the female. Of course, in actuality, we are neither male nor female. For this designation refer only to the outer dress, the body. We are all actually Krishna's servant, but in conditioned life, we are shaped by iron chains in the form of beautiful women. Thus, every male is bound by sex and therefore, one who wishes to gain liberation from the material clutches must first learn to control the sex urge. And unrestricted sex puts one fully in the clutches of illusion. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu officially renounced this illusion at the age of 24, although his wife was 16 and his mother 70, and he was the only male in the family, although he was a Brahman and was not rich. He took sannyas and renounced order of life, and thus extricated himself from finally entanglement.
If we wish to become fully Krishna conscious, we have to give up the shackles of Maya. Or if we remain with Maya, we should live in such a way that we will not be subject to illusion. As did the many householders among Lord Chaitanya's closest devotees. With his followers in the renounced order, however, Lord Chaitanya was very strict. He even banished Junior Haridas as important kirtan leader for glancing lustfully at a woman. The Lord told him, "You are living with me in the renounced order, and yet you are looking at a woman with lust." Other devotees of the Lord had appealed to him to forgive Haridas, but he replied, "All of you can forgive him and live with him. I shall live alone." On the other hand, when the Lord learned that the wife of one of his householder devotee was pregnant, he asked that the baby be given a certain auspicious name. So while the Lord approved of the householders having regulated sex, he was like a thunderbolt with those in the renounced order who tried to cheat by the method known as drinking water underwater while bathing on a fast day. On other words, in other words, he tolerated no hypocrisy among his followers. For the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn how Lord Chaitanya taught people to break the shackles of Maya and become immortal. Thus, as mentioned above, the title may be properly translated as the character of the living force in immortality. The supreme living force is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is also the supreme entity. There are innumerable living entities, and all of them are individual. This is very easy to understand. We all are individual in our thoughts and desires, and the Supreme Lord is also an individual person. He is different, though in that he is the leader and the one whom no one can excel. Among the minute living entities, one being can excel another in one capacity or another. Like each of these living entities, the Lord is an uh, Lord is an individual, but he is different in that he is the supreme individual. God is also infallible, and thus in the Bhagavad Gita he is addressed as Achyuta, which means he who can never fall who never falls down. This name is appropriate because in the Bhagavad Gita Arjun falls into illusion, but Krishna does not. Krishna himself reveals his infallibility when he says to Arjun, "When I appear in this world, I do so by my own internal potency."
Thus, we should not think that Krishna is overpowered by the material potency when he is in the material world. Neither Krishna or his incarnations ever come under the control of material nature. They are totally free. Indeed, in Srimad Bhagavatam, one who has godly nature is actually defined as one who is not affected by the modes of material nature. Although in material nature, even if a devotee can attain this freedom, then what to speak of the Supreme Lord? Ayushi Mataji, will you read? The real question is how can we remain unpolluted by material contamination while in the material nature? Rupa Goswami explains that we can remain uncontaminated while in the world if we simply make it our ambition to serve Krishna. One may then justifiably ask, how can I serve? It is not simply a matter of meditation, which is just an activity of the mind, but of performing practical work for Krishna. In such work, we should leave no resource unused. Whatever is there, whatever we have, should be used for Krishna. When we can use everything, typewriters, automobiles, aeroplanes, missiles. If we simply speak to people about Krishna consciousness, we are also rendering service. If our mind, senses, speech, money, and energies are thus engaged in the service of Krishna, then we are no longer in material nature. By virtue of spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, we transcend the platform of material nature. It is a fact that Krishna, his expansions, and his devotees, that is, those who work for him, are not in material nature, although people with a poor fund of knowledge think that they are.
The Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches that the spirit soul is immortal, that our activities in the spiritual world are also immortal. The Mayavadis who hold the view that the absolute is impersonal and formless content that a realized soul has no need to talk, but the Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna, no need to talk, but the Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna content that when one reaches the stage of realization, he really begins to talk. Previously, we only talked of nonsense. The Vaishnava says, not let us begin our real talks. Talks really brings to talk. Pre- Talks of Krishna in support of their view that the self-realized remains silent. The Mayavadis are fond of using the example of the water pot, maintaining that when a pot is not filled with water, it makes a sound, but that when it is filled, it makes no sound. But are we water pots? How can we be compared to them? A good analogy utilized as many similarities between two objects as possible. Waterpot is not an active living force, but we are. Ever silent meditation may be at God for a waterpot, but not for us. Indeed, when a devotee realizes how much has to say about Krishna, 24 hours in a day are not sufficient. It is the fool who is celebrated as long as he does not speak, for when he breaks his silence, his lack of knowledge is exposed. The Chaitanya Charitamrita shows that there are many wonderful things to discover by glorifying the Supreme. In the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadasa Kaviraj Goswami writes, I offer my respect to my spiritual master. He used the plural here to indicate the disciplic succession. He offers obeisance not to his spiritual master alone, but to the whole to the whole parampara. The chain of disciplic succession beginning with Lord Krishna himself. Thus, the author addressed the Guru in the plural to show the highest respect for all his processor, spiritual master. After after offering obsess to the disciplic succession, the author pays obsession to all the other devotees, to the Lord himself, to his inclination to the expansion of Godhead and to the manifestation of Krishna, internal energy. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes called Krishna Chaitanya, is the embodiment of all of this. He is God, Guru, devotee, incarnation, internal energy of and expansion of God, and as he associate Nityananda. He is the first expansion of God as Advait. He is an inclination as Gadadhara. He is internal potency and as Srivasa. He is the marginal living entity in the role of a devotee. Thus, Krishna should not be thought of as being alone, but should be considered as eternally existing with all his manifestation, as described by Ramanujacharya in the Vishiddhiveda philosophy. God's energies, expansions, and uh, inclination and are considered to be oneness in diversity. In other words, God is not separate from all of this. Everything, to everyone together is God. Everything together is God.
Actually, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is not intended for the novice, for it is the postgraduate study of spiritual knowledge. Ideally, one begins with the Bhagavad Gita and advances through Srimad Bhagavatam to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although all these great scriptures are not the same, are on the same absolute level, for the sake of comparative study, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered to be on the highest platform. Every verse in it is perfectly composed. In the second verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author offers his obeisances to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. He compares them to the sun and the moon because they dissipate the darkness of the material world in the instance of the material world. In this instance, the sun and the moon have risen together. In the Western world, where the glories of Lord Chaitanya are relatively unknown, one may inquire, who is Krishna? Who is Krishna Chaitanya? The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraja, answers that question in the third verse of his book. Generally, in Upanishads, the supreme absolute truth is described in an impersonal way, but the personal aspect of absolute truth is mentioned in Isha Upanishad, where we find the following verse.
हिरण्यमयेन पात्रेण सत्यस्य पिहितं मुखं तत्त्वं पूषन्न अपावृणो सत्यधर्माय दृष्टये. O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by a dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotees. The impersonalists do not have the power to go beyond the effulgence of God and arrive at the personality of Godhead from whom this effulgence is emanating. The Ishopanishad is a hymn to that personality of Godhead. It is not that the impersonal Brahma is denied, it is also described, but that Brahma is revealed to be the glaring effulgence of the body of Lord Krishna. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. In other words, Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the basis of the impersonal Brahma. The Paramatma or Super Soul, who is present within the heart of every living entity and within every atom of the universe, is but the partial representation of Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, being the basis of both Brahma and the all pervading Paramatma as well, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As such, he is full in six opulence, wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. In short, we should know that he is Krishna, God, and that nothing is equal to or greater than him. There is nothing superior to be conceived. Mataji can scroll. He is the Supreme Person. Srila Rupa Goswami, a confidential devotee, taught for more than 10 days continually by Lord Chaitanya, wrote, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurit Vishe Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is more magnanimous than any other avatar, even Krishna himself, because he is bestowing freely what no one else has ever given, pure Krishna love.
Lord Chaitanya's teaching begins from the point of surrender to Krishna. He does not pursue the paths of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Hatha Yoga, but begins at the end of material existence, at the point where one gives up all material attachment. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins his teaching by distinguishing the soul from matter, and in the 18th chapter, he concludes at the point where the soul surrenders to him in devotion. The Mayavadis would have all talk ceased here, but at that point, the real discussion only begins. As the Vedanta Sutra says at the very beginning, Tathato Brahma Jigyasa. Now let us begin to inquire about the Supreme Absolute Truth. Rupa Goswami thus praises Lord Chaitanya as the most munificent incarnation of all, for he gives the greatest gift by teaching the highest form of devotional service. In other words, he answers the most important inquiries that anyone can make. There are different stages of devotional service and God realization. Strictly speaking, anyone who accepts the existence of God is situated in devotional service. To acknowledge that God is great is something but not much. Lord Chaitanya, preaching as an acharya, a great teacher, taught that we can enter into the relationship with God and actually become God's friend, parent, or lover. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna showed Arjuna his universal form because Arjuna was his very dear friend. Upon seeing Krishna as the Lord of universes, however, Arjuna asked Krishna to forgive the familiarity of his relationship, of his friendship. Lord Chaitanya goes beyond this point. Through Lord Chaitanya, we can become friends with Krishna, and there will be no limit to this friendship. We can become friends of Krishna not in awe or adoration, but in complete freedom. We can ever relate to God as his father or mother. This is the philosophy not only of the Chaitanya Charitamrita but Srimad Bhagavatam as well. There are no other scriptures in the world in which God is treated as the son of a devotee. Usually, God is seen as the Almighty Father who supplies the demands of the sons. The great devotees, however, sometimes treat God as a son in their execution of devotional service. The son demands, and the father and the mother supply. And in supplying Krishna, the devotees become in supplying Krishna, the devotee becomes like a father or mother. Instead of talking from God, Instead of taking from God, we give to God. It was in this relationship that Krishna's mother, Yashoda, told the Lord, "Here, eat this, or you'll die. Eat nicely." In this way, Krishna, although the provider of everything, depends on the mercy of his devotee. This is a uniquely high level of friendship in which the devotee actually believes himself to be the father or mother of Krishna.
However, Lord Chaitanya's greatest gift was his teaching that Krishna can be treated as one's lover. In this relationship, the Lord becomes so much attached of his devotee that he expresses his inability to reciprocate. Krishna was so obligate to the gopis, the cow coward girls of Vrindavan, that he felt unable to return their love. I cannot repay your love, he told. He told them, I have no more asset to give. Devotional service on this highest, most excellent platform of love and beloved, which had never been given by any previous incarnation of our Acharya. Incarnation or Acharya. We given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Krishna Dasa Kaviraja, quoting Srila Rupa Goswami, writes in the fourth verse of this book, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in a yellow complexion, and he is the Sachidananda, the son of Mother Sachi. He is the most charitable personality because he came to deliver Krishna Prem, unallowed love for Krishna to everyone. May you always keep him in your heart. It will be easy to understand Krishna through him. We we have often heard the fresh love of Godhead. We for this love of Godhead can actually be developed, can be learned from the Vaishnava philosophy and theoretically knowledge of love of God can be found in many places and in many scripture. But what that love of Godhead actually is and how it is developed can be found in the Vaishnava literatures, in the unique and highest department of love of God that is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Even in this material world, we can have a little sense of love. How is this possible? It is due to the presence of our original love of God. Whatever we find within our experience, within this conditioned life is situated in the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate source of living everything. In in our original relationship with the Supreme Lord, there is real love, and that love is reflected revertedly through material conditions. Our real love is continuous and unending, but because the love is reflected privately in this material world, it lacks continuity and is in every inebriating. If we want real transcendental love, we have to transfer our love to the supreme lovable object, Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. In material consciousness, we are trying to love that which is not at all lovable. We give our love to cats, dogs, running the risk that at the time of death we may think of them and consequently take birth in a family of cat or dog. Our consciousness at the time of death determines our next life. That is one reason why the Vedic scriptures stress the chastity of woman. If a woman is very much attached to her husband at the time of death, she will think of him, and in next life she will be promoted to a man's body. Generally, a man's life is better than a woman's because a man usually has better facilities for understanding the spiritual science.
But Krishna consciousness is so nice that it makes no distinction between man and women. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, anyone who takes shelter of me, whether a woman, Shudra, Vaishya, or someone of low birth, is sure to achieve my association. That is Krishna's guarantee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs us that in every country and in every scripture there is some hint of love of Godhead, but no one knows what love of Godhead actually is. The Vedic scriptures, however, are different in that they can direct the individual in the proper way to love God. Other scriptures do not give information on how one can love God, nor do they actually define or describe what or who the Godhead actually is. Although they officially promote love of Godhead, they have no idea how to execute it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a practical demonstration of how to love God in a conjugal relationship. Taking the part of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to love Krishna as Radharani loved him. Krishna was always amazed by Radharani's love. How does Radharani give me such pleasure? He would ask. In order to study Radharani, Krishna lived in her role and tried to understand himself. This is the secret of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he has taken the mood and role of Radharani to show us how to love Krishna. Thus, the author writes in the fifth verse, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, who is absorbed in Radharani's thoughts.
Hare Krishna. If everyone are available, then we can complete the introduction part. As today is appearance day of Lord Chaitanya also.
Yes.
This brings up the question of who Srimati Radharani is and what Radha Krishna is. Actually, Radha Krishna is the exchange of love, but not ordinary love. Krishna has immense potencies, of which three are principal: the internal, the external, and the marginal potencies. In the internal potency, there are three divisions: Samvit, Haladini, and Sandhini. The Haladini potency is Krishna's pleasure potency. All living entities have this pleasure seeking potency, for all beings are trying to have pleasure. This is the very nature of the living entity. At present, we are trying to enjoy our pleasure potency by means of the body in the material condition. By bodily contact, we are attempting to derive pleasure from material sense objects. But we should not entertain the nonsensical idea that Krishna, who is always spiritual, also tries to seek pleasure on this material plane. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes the material universe as a non permanent place of miseries. Why then would he seek pleasure in matter? He is the super soul, the supreme spirit, and his pleasure is beyond the material conception. To learn how Krishna enjoys pleasure, we must study the first nine cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then we should study the 10th canto, in which Krishna's pleasure potency is displayed in his pastimes with Radharani and the damsels of Raja. Unfortunately, unintelligent person turn at once to the sports of Krishna in the Dasham Skandha, the 10th canto. Krishna's embracing Radharani or his dancing with the cowherd girls in the Rasa Dansa are generally not understood by ordinary men. because they may consider these pastimes in the light of mundane lust. They foolishly think that Krishna is like themselves and that he embraces the gopis just like an ordinary man embraces a young girl. Some people thus become interested in Krishna because they think that his religion allows indulgence in sex. This is not Krishna Bhakti, love of Krishna, but Prakrita Sahitya, materialistic lust.
To avoid such errors, we should understand what Radha Krishna actually is. Radha and Krishna display their pastimes through Krishna's internal energy. The pleasure potential of Krishna's internal energy is a most difficult subject matter, and unless one understands what Krishna is, one cannot understand it. Krishna does not take any pleasure in this material world, but he is a pleasure potential. Because we are part and parcel of Krishna, the pleasure potential is within us also, but we are trying to exhibit the pleasure potential in matter. Krishna, however, does not make such a fine attempt. The object of Krishna's pleasure potential is Radharani. Krishna exhibit his potential as Radharani and then engage in loving affairs with her. In other words, Krishna does not take pleasure in the external energies, but exhibit his internal energy, his pleasure potential as Radharani, and enjoy with her. The Krishna manifests himself as Radharani in order to enjoy his internal pleasure potential of the many expansion and incarnation of the Lord. This pleasure potential is the foremost and chief. It is not that Radharani is supreme of Krishna, separate from Krishna. Radharani is also Krishna. For this is not difference between the energy and the energetic. Without energy, there is no meaning to the energetic, and without energetic, there is no energy. Similarly, without Radha, there is no meaning to Krishna, and without Krishna, there is no meaning to Radha. Because of this, the Vaishnava philosophy first of all pays obsessed to and worship the internal laser potential of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Lord and his potential are always referred to as Radha Krishna. Similarly, those who worship Narayana first of all utter the name of Lakshmi as Lakshmi Narayana. Similarly, those who worship Lord Rama first all utter the name of Sita. In the case Sita Rama, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayana, the potency always comes first.
Radha and Krishna are one, and when Krishna desires to enjoy pleasure, he manifests himself as Radharani. The spiritual exchange of love between Radha and Krishna is the actual display of Krishna's internal pleasure potential. Although we speak of when we speak of when Krishna desires, just when he did desire, we cannot say. We only speak in this way because in conditioned life we take it that everything has a beginning. However, in spiritual life everything is absolute, and so there is neither beginning nor end. Yet, in order to understand that Radha and Krishna are one, and that they also become divided, the question when automatically comes to the mind. When Krishna desired to enjoy his pleasure potency, he manifested himself in the separate form of Radharani. And when he wanted to understand himself through the agency of Radha, he united with Radha, and that unification is called Lord Chaitanya. It is all explained by Srila Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the 5th verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the next verse, the author further explains why Krishna assumed the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna desired to know the glory of Radha's love. Why is she so much in love with me? Krishna asked. What is my special qualification that attracts her so? Attracts her so, and what is the actual way in which she loves me? It seems strange that Krishna, as the supreme, should be attracted by anyone's love. A man searches after the love of a woman because he is imperfect. He lacks something. The love of woman, that potency in pleasure, is absent in man, and therefore a man wants a woman. But that this is not the case with Krishna, who is full in himself. Thus, Krishna expressed surprise. Why am I attracted by Radharani? And when Radharani feels my love, what is she actually feeling? To taste the essence of that loving exchange, Krishna made his appearance in the same way that the moon appears on the horizontal of the sea. Just as the moon was produced by the churning of the sea, the churning of spiritual loving affairs of the moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. Indeed, Lord Chaitanya's complexion was golden, just like the lustre of the moon. Although this is figurative language, it conveys the meaning behind the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The full uh, significance of his appearance will be explained in the later chapters.
After offering respects to Lord Chaitanya, Krishnadas Kaviraj begins offering them to Lord Nityananda in the 7th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The author explains that Lord Chaitanya is Balaram, who is the origin of Mahavishnu. Krishna's first expansion is Balaram, a portion of whom is manifested as Sankarshan, who then expands as Pradyumna. In this way, so many expansions take place. Although there are many expansions, Lord Sri Krishna is the origin, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. He is like the original candle from which many thousands and millions of candles are lit. Although any number of candles can be lit, the original candle retains its identity as the origin. In this way, Krishna expands himself into so many forms, and all these expansions are called Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu is a large light, and we are small lights, but all are expansions of Krishna. When it is necessary to create the material universes, Vishnu expands himself as Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu lies down in the casual ocean and breathes all the universes from his nostrils. Thus, from the Mahavishnu and the casual ocean spring all the universes, and all these universes, including ours, float in the casual ocean. In this regard, there is a story of Vamana, who, when he took 3 steps, stuck his foot through the covering of this universe. Water from the casual ocean flowed through the hole that his foot made, and it is said that that water became the river Ganges. Therefore, Ganges is accepted as the most sacred water of Vishnu and is worshipped by all Hindus. From the Himalayas down to the Bay of Bengal.
Mahavishnu is actually an expansion of Balram, who is Krishna's first expansion, and in the Vrindavan pastimes his brother. In the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, the word Rama refers to Balram. Since Lord Nityananda is Balram, Rama also refers to Lord Nityananda. Thus, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram addresses not only Krishna and Balram but Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda as well. The subject matter of Chaitanya Charitamrita deals primarily with what is beyond this material creation. The cosmic material expansion is called Maya, illusion, because it has no eternal existence. Because it is sometimes manifested and sometimes not. It is regarded as illusory. But beyond this temporary manifestation is a higher nature as indicated in the Bhagavad Gita. Paras tasmatu bhavanyo avyakyo avyatakt सनातनः यः सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न vinashyati. Yet there is another nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is.
The material world has a manifested state and potential unmanifested state. The supreme nature is beyond both the manifested and the unmanifested material nature. This supreme nature can be understood as the living force which is present in the bodies of all living creatures. The body itself is composed of inferior nature, matter, but it is the superior nature that is moving the body. The symptoms of that superior nature is consciousness. Thus, in the spiritual world, where everything is composed of the supreme nature, superior nature, everything is conscious. In the material world there in animate object that are not conscious, but in the spiritual world nothing is inanimate. There is a table is conscious, the land is conscious, the tree are conscious, everything is conscious. It is not possible to imagine how far this material manifestation extend. In the material world everything is calculated by imagination or by some imperfect method. But the Vedic literatures give real information of what lies beyond the material universe, since it is not possible to obtain information of anything beyond this material nature by experimental means. Those who believe only in experimental knowledge may doubt the Vedic conclusion, for such people cannot even calculate how far this universe extends. Now can they reach far into the universe itself? That which is beyond our power of conception is called ac- called asynthia, inconceivable. It is unless to argue or speculate about the in about the inconceivable. If something is truly inconceivable, it is not subject to speculation or experimentation. Our energy is limited and our senses perception is limited. Therefore, we must rely on the Vedic conclusion regarding that subject matter which is inconceivable. Knowledge of the supreme nature must simply be accepted without argument. How it is, how is it possible to argue about something to which we have no access? The method of for understanding transcendental subject matter is given by Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna at the beginning of the fourth chapter. I instructed this impossible science of yoga to the sun god Vivashvan and Vivashvan. Instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it is Ichwaku.
This is the method of parampara or disciplic succession. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam explains that Krishna imparted knowledge into the heart of Brahma, the first created being within the universe. Brahma imparted those lessons to his disciple Narad, and Narada imparted that knowledge to his disciple Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva imparted it to Madhavacharya, and from Madhavacharya, the knowledge came down to Madhavendra Puri, and then to Ishwarapuri, and from him to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one may ask that if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, then why did he need a spiritual master? Of course, he did not need a spiritual master, but because he is playing the role of Acharya, one who teaches by example, he accepted a spiritual master. Even Krishna himself accepted a spiritual master, for that is the system. In this way, the Lord sets the example for men. We should not think, however, that the Lord takes a spiritual master because he is in want of knowledge. He is simply stressing the importance of accepting the disciplic succession. The knowledge of that disciplic succession actually comes from the Lord Himself, and if the knowledge descends unbroken, it is perfect. Although we may not be in touch with the original personality who first imparted the knowledge, we may receive the same knowledge through this process of transmission. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Krishna, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, transmitted transcendental knowledge with transcendental knowledge into the heart of Brahma. This then is one way knowledge is this then is one way knowledge received. In one way, knowledge is received through the heart. Thus, there are two processes by which one may receive knowledge. One depends directly upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated as the Supersoul within the heart of the living heart of all living entities, and the other depends upon the Guru, our spiritual master, who is an expansion of Krishna. Thus, Krishna transmits information both from within and without from within and from without. We simply have to receive it. If knowledge is received in this way, it doesn't matter whether it is inconceivable or not.
In Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a great deal of information given about the Vaikuntha planetary systems, which are beyond the material universe. Similarly, a great deal of inconceivable information is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Any attempt to arrive at this information through experimental knowledge will fail. The knowledge simply has to be accepted. According to the Vedic method, Shabda or transcendental sound is regarded as evidence. Sound is very important in Vedic understanding, for if it is pure, it is accepted as authoritative. Even in the material world, we accept a great deal of information sent thousands of miles by telephone or radio. In this way, we also accept sound as evidence in our daily lives. Although we cannot see the informant, we accept his information as valid on the basis of sound. Sound vibration, then, is very important in the transmission of Vedic knowledge. The Vedas inform us that beyond this cosmic manifestation, there are extensive planets in the spiritual sky. This material manifestation is regarded as only a small portion of the total creation. The material manifestation includes not only this universe but innumerable others as well. But all the material universes combined constitute only one-fourth of the total creation. The remaining three-fourths is situated in the spiritual sky. In that sky, innumerable planets float, and these are called Vaikuntha Lokas. In every Vaikuntha Loka, Narayan presides with his four expansions Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Niruddha, and Vasudev. This Sankarshan states Krishnadas Kaviraj in the 8th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is Lord Nityananda.
As stated before, it is in his form as Mahavishnu that the Lord manifests the material universes. Just as a husband and wife combine to beget offspring, Mahavishnu combines with his wife Maya or material nature. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna states, Sarva yonishu konteya murteya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahadyoner aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Vishnu impregnates Maya, the material nature, simply by glancing at her. This is the spiritual method. Materially, we are limited to impregnating um, by only one particular part of her body, but the Supreme Lord, Krishna or Mahavishnu, can impregnate by any part. Simply by glancing, the Lord can conceive countless living entities in the womb of material nature. The Brahma Samhita confirms that the spiritual body of the Supreme Lord is so powerful that any part of his body can perform the functions of any other part. We can touch only with our hands or skin, but Krishna can touch just by glancing. We can see only with our eyes, but we cannot touch or smell with them. Krishna, however, can smell and also eat with his eyes. When food is offered to Krishna, we do not see him eating, but he eats simply by glancing at the food. We cannot imagine how things work in the spiritual world, where everything is spiritual. It is not that Krishna does not eat or that we imagine that he eats. He actually eats, but this eating is different from ours. Our eating process will be similar to his when we are completely on the spiritual platform. On that platform, every part of the body can act on behalf of any other part. Vishnu does not require anything in order to create. He does not require the goddess Lakshmi in order to give birth to Brahma, for Brahma is born from a lotus flower that grows from the navel of Vishnu. The goddess Lakshmi sits at the feet of Vishnu and serves him. In this material world, sex is required to produce children, but in the spiritual world, a man can produce as many children as he likes without having to take help from his wife. So there is no sex there. Because we have no experience with spiritual energy, we think that Brahma's birth from the navel of Vishnu is completely a fictional story. We are not aware that spiritual energy is so powerful that it can do anything and everything. Material energy is dependent on certain laws, but spiritual energy is fully independent.
Countless universe reside like seeds within the skin pores of Mahavishnu, and when he exhales, they are all manifested in the material world. We have no experience of such a thing, but we do experience a prevented reflection in the phenomenon of um, pers- um, perspiration. We cannot imagine, however, the duration of our breath of Mahavishnu. For within one breath, all the universe are created and annihilated. This is stated in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma lives life for the duration of one breath. For the duration of one breath, and according to our one time scale, uh, uh, years constituted only a 12 hour of for Brahma, and Brahma lives 100 of his years. Yet the whole life of Brahma is contained within one breath of Mahavishnu. Thus, it is not possible for us to imagine the breathing power of Mahavishnu, who is but a partial manifestation of Lord Nityananda. This the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains in the ninth verse. In the 10th and 11th verse, Krishnadasa Kaviraja described Garbho Dhak Sai Vishnu and Kishoridaka Sai Vishnu. Successive plenary expansion of Mahavishnu, Brahma appears upon a lotus growing from on the navel of Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. Within the stem of that lotus are so many planetary systems. Then Brahma creates the whole of human society, animal society, everything. Krishodaka Sai Vishnu lies on the milk ocean within the universe of which he is the controller and maintainer. Thus, Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and when the time annihilation arrives, Shiva will finish everything.
In the first 11 verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami thus discusses Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Sri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Nityananda as Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna. Then, in the 12th and 13th verses, he describes Advaita Acharya, who is another principal associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and an incarnation of Mahavishnu. Thus, Advaita Acharya is also the Lord, or more precisely, an expansion of the Lord. The word Advait means non-dual, and his name is such because he is non-different from the Supreme Lord. He is also called Acharya, teacher, because he uh, disseminate Krishna consciousness. He disseminated Krishna consciousness. In this way, he is just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although Lord Chaitanya is Sri Krishna himself, he appeared as a devotee to teach people in general how to love Krishna. Similarly, although Advaita Acharya is the Lord, he appeared just to distribute the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Thus, he is also the Lord incarnated as a devotee. In the pastime of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is manifested in 5 different features, known as Panchatattva, to whom Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj offers his obeisances in the 14th verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna and his associates appear as devotees of the Supreme Lord in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Acharya, Sri Gadadhar Prabhu, and Srivas Prabhu. In all cases, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the source of energy for all his devotees. Since this is the case, if we take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for a successful execution of Krishna consciousness, we are sure to make progress. In devotional song, Narottam Das Thakur sings, My dear Lord Chaitanya, please have mercy upon me. There is no one who is merciful as you, who is as merciful as you. My plea is most urgent because your mission is to deliver all fallen souls, and no one is more fallen than I. Therefore, I beg priority.
With verse 15, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami begins offering his obeisances directly to Krishna himself. Krishnadas Kaviraj was an inhabitant of Vrindavan and a great devotee. He had been living with his family in Katwa, a small town in the district of Bardwa in Bengal. He worshipped Radha Krishna with his family, and once, when there was some misunderstanding among the family members about devotional service, he was advised by Nityanand Prabhu in a dream to leave home and to go to Vrindavan. Although he was very old, he started out that very night and went to live in Vrindavan. While he was there, he met some of the six Goswamis, the principal disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was requested to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita by the devotees of Vrindavan. Although he began his work at a very old age, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, he finished it. Today, it remains the most authoritative book on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy and life. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was living in Vrindavan, there were not very many temples. At that time, the three principal temples were those of Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath. As a resident of Vrindavan, Krishnadas Kaviraj offers his respects to the deities in these temples and requests God's favor. My progress in spiritual life is very slow, so I am asking your help. In the 15th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas offers his obeisances to the Madan Mohan Vigraha, the deity who can help us progress in Krishna consciousness. In the execution of Krishna consciousness, our first business is to know Krishna and our relationship with Him. To know Krishna is to know oneself, and to know oneself is to know one's relationship with Krishna. Since this relationship can be learned by worshipping the Madan Mohan Vigraha, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami first establishes his relationship with him.
When this is established in the 16th verse, Krishnadas offers his obeisances to the functional deity Govind. The Govind deity is called the functional deity because he shows us how to serve Radha and Krishna. The Madan Mohan deity simply establishes that I am your eternal servant. With Govind, however, there is actual acceptance of service. Govind resides eternally in Vrindavan. In the spiritual world of Vrindavan, the buildings are made up of touchstone. The cows are known as Surabhi cows, givers of abundant milk, and the trees are known as wish fulfilling trees, for they yield whatever one desires. In Vrindavan, Krishna herds the Surabhi cows and he is worshipped by hundreds and thousands of gopis, cowherd girls who are all goddesses of fortune. When Krishna descends to the material world, the same Vrindavan descends with him, just as an entourage accompanies an important personage. Because when Krishna comes, his land also comes. Vrindavan is considered to exist beyond the material world. Therefore, the devotees take shelter of the Vrindavan in India, for it is considered to be a replica of the original Vrindavan. Although one may complain that no Kalpavriksha or wish fulfilling trees exist there, when the six Goswamis were there, Kalpavrikshas were present. It is not that one can simply go to such a tree and make demands, one must become a devotee first. The Goswamis would live under a tree for one night only, and the trees would satisfy all their desires. For the common man, this may all seem very wonderful, but as one makes progress in devotional service, all this can be realized. Vrindavan is actually experienced as it is by persons who have stopped trying to derive pleasure from material enjoyment. When will my mind become cleansed of all hankering for material enjoyment? So I will be able to see Vrindavan. One great devotee asks. The more Krishna conscious we become, the more we advance, the more everything is revealed as a spiritual. Thus, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami considers the Vrindavan in India to be as good as the Vrindavan in the spiritual sky. And in the 16th verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he describes Radharani and Krishna as seated beneath a wish fulfilling tree in Vrindavan. On a throne decorated with valuable jewels, there Krishna's dear Gopi friends serve Radha and Krishna by singing, dancing, offering beaten nuts and refreshments, and decorating their lordships with flowers. Even today in India, people decorate swinging thrones and recreate the scenes during the month of July August. Generally, at that time, people go to Vrindavan to offer their respects to the deities there.
Finally, Krishnadasa Kaviraja Goswami offered his blessings to his readers in the name of the Gopinatha deity, who is Krishna as master and proprietor of the gopis. When Krishna played upon his flute, all the gopis or cowherd girls were attached by the sound and left their household duties. And when they came to him, he danced with them. These activities are all described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. These gopis were childhood friends of Krishna, and many were married. For in India, the girls are generally married by the age of 12. The boys, however, are not married before 18. So Krishna, who was 15 or 16 at the time, was not married. Nonetheless, he called these girls from their homes and invited them to dance with him. That dance is called the Ras Leela dance, and it is the most elevated of all the Vrindavan pastimes. Krishna is therefore called Gopinatha because he is the beloved master of the gopis. Krishnadasa Kaviraja Goswami patience the belonging of Lord Gopinatha. May that Gopinatha, the master of the gopis, Krishna bless you. May you become blessed by Gopinatha. The author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita says that just as Krishna attract the gopis by the sweet sound of his flute, he will also attract the reader's mind by the transcendental vibration.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Okay, so now we'll do Guru Vandana. Ayushi Mataji, will you do?
Mataji, you may only do today.
Okay, Muskan, you can lead.
Guru Vandana, right?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji, 1 minute.
I've